We had an old man, lived in Long County, Georgia for all of his 87 years, and his name was Chester Baker. Chester Baker was a total rounder. He was a four-fisted drinker. He was a carouser. He was a womanizer. And Chester was also the favorites, all us kids, because he was an old-time, true swamper. He knew all the routes out to Billy's Island and the Oak and to Cow House and all the far-end places in the swamp. He was a hunter and a fisherman, and he made the best corn whiskey he made a peach brandy that went down like a mother's milk and then blew the seat right out of your drawers. It was unreal. Chester lived alone for most of his years out in the swamp. He was out there fishing and hunting and trapping and making that whiskey and selling them skins and guiding tourists. And nobody really knew it, but Chester was buying a little bit of land every now and then as we went along, and it wasn't too many years before Chester had him 2 sections of land right on the edge of the swamp. Well, most of us, or a lot of us, suspected that there were more than a few youngsters around Long County that looked an awful lot like Chester Baker. And that could have been true, because Chester was a big, handsome man. He was about 6'5", and he weighed about 250 pounds, and he was just about as soft as a Cypress 12 by 12. And it was known that Chester liked to love the ladies. Well, in 1945, when Chester Baker was 72 years old, he took himself a bride. Esther Murrow had just celebrated her 50th birthday, and she had set her hat for Chester Baker and had very quietly chased after him for about 15 years. And the whole county was just delighted when Chester let the fence wire down and got himself married. Now, Miss Esther was a pillar of local society. She was in the garden club. She was in a ladies' auxiliary. She was in 3 circles at 3 different churches. She won prizes for canning and knitting and sewing and all kinds of things at the country fairs. She'd help out at the mill infirmary when anybody got hurt real bad. And Miss Esther was one of the primmest and most properest ladies in all of Long County, Georgia. And Miss Esther and Chester got married on a Saturday afternoon, and it was a wonderful affair. They just invited the whole area, just made it public. And the ladies coming, and they bringing armloads of food and gifts, and the men came and got squashed on that old popsicle whiskey that Chester made, and it was a glorious day. Kids was running and playing and having a wonderful time. 72-year-old Chester Baker and his new bride, 50-year-old Mrs. Chester Esther Baker. Well, as ladies are kind of prone to do, Miss Esther just took over. And she started changing that house that Chester had built like you wouldn't believe. Up to now, Chester had lived the good life. He had him a pack of dogs and a couple of cows and had his still and his little greenhouse, and everything was wonderful. But now, things were changing. Miss Esther had some new lamps installed, even got herself a telephone. Chester went out and bought a propane gas stove to take the place of that old wood burner he'd had all them years. Bought himself a new pickup truck. And as far as we knew, they were the happiest couple in all of Long County, Georgia. One Friday afternoon, there's about 12, 14 of us standing out in the driveway of the Rainbow Garage Filling Station and Grocery Store. And somebody hollered, "Lord, looky yonder." And we all run out to the road, and here come that new Ford pickup truck, just fishtailing it right down the road. Gravel was slinging out all over the place, dust was boiling up. That thing come flying into the driveway, knocked down a 10-foot section of Mr. Bass's whitewash fence, bounced off that pump that didn't work, and here come Miss Esther, just boiling out of that truck. She clamped her hand on her hat and grabbed her purse and went storming in that store. And Miss Esther was not a lady to use strong language. And you could have knocked us all over with a dry brush broom when we heard, damn you, Bass Ferguson, get out of the way and give me that telephone." And she snatched up that phone and she said, "Martha Grimes, damn you, give me that number of mine. Now, you ring 230 right now." And there was a little pause, and we heard, Chester Baker, damn you, you rotten old man, you filthy old billy goat, you worthless hunk of trash. I just come from Doc Silver over in Doctortown. I told you to be careful, Chester. I told you. I warned you, but oh no, you know all the answers. And Doc Silver just went over me with a curry comb. "You worthless old goat, I'm pregnant." And 72-year-old Chester Baker said into that telephone, "Who is this?"